Welcome to All Clear, the podcast that takes you beyond the rails. Brought to you by the team at Australian Jumping, this podcast dives into the stories, the people, and the horses shaping our sport. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or simply love the thrill of the clear round, All Clear delivers the conversations that matter. Hit subscribe and join us for a fresh perspective on the sport you love. I am really pleased to be here this evening with Jack Barker. So Jack's already been on the podcast, and we really just want to talk with Jack now because he's over in Europe and he's been competing in the sport over there. And I just want to catch up with him, chat about how things are going over there and what it's been like. He represented Australia and he's now experiencing the sport at a completely different level. So welcome to All Clear again, Jack.
Thanks very much for having me on again, Jo. It's good to be back.
Thanks, Jack. So how did this idea of coming to Europe first become a serious conversation for you guys?
It was a very sort of last minute plan for us. Obviously, we did have quite a strong team of horses at home in Australia. We had 2 horses jumping the World Cup, and I planned to just do the season at home and try and give them as much experience as possible. We had some good young horses, and that was my plan, to just stay at home for this year. But I think a few months ago, it was a bit earlier in the year, maybe around March, there was a bit of talk about having the World Equestrian Games at Aachen. We're going to hold an under 21 sort of championship thing for young riders, and nothing came out through Equestrian Australia, so we didn't really know what was going on with it. But we spoke to Gavin and we spoke to Coco, and we got some information about it, and they confirmed that Aachen were going to hold a young rider championship, which for us, or for me, was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I was lucky that Mum and Dad both sort of agreed, and they were strong drivers for it. So we made the late decision that, first of all, I spoke to Gavin, the chef de keep, and he said to me, you just got to get over there as early as possible and get exposure into that European atmosphere. We dropped our plan to stay at home and ended up bringing Callisto and Cryptic over, the 2 horses that I thought would be most ready for the trip. That was how it started. It was very late notice, but it ended up working out all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive decision, isn't it? Because it's not just like booking a flight and getting on a plane yourself.
Yeah.
That must have been a fair bit of organisation required.
Oh, absolutely. I think I was lucky Mum did a lot of it. But yeah, there was so much, a lot of organisation, and we didn't have much time as well. It was quite late. It was also quite hard because we had, obviously, with the war over in the Middle East, they weren't putting on flights, the freight companies, through their normal sort of routes, if that makes sense. So even like the equine air freight company, they didn't know where they were flying to. They couldn't give us information even on where the horses would stop. So it was all quite sort of late notice, but it's taken some organisation, but it's all worked out. We've been really lucky that we got accommodation here at Oak Sport Horses with Hillary and Fritz, because even like finding accommodation for the horses would have been hard without them, because it was so late notice. So we've been very lucky.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was going to ask you that, where are you staying? But staying with Hillary's a perfect scenario for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been very lucky that we contacted Hillary, and she's got an awesome property here in Valkenswaard in the Netherlands. It's got nice big boxes, and we're actually very lucky that she has turnout paddocks for our horses every day. The horses spend pretty much all day after they've been ridden outside in big paddocks, which is quite a luxury here in Europe. I don't think many horses get that opportunity. So that's amazing for us, especially because our horses at home would spend all day in the paddock. I think it would have been quite a shock to them to have been inside somewhere all day. So that's worked really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Hillary's place and it is fantastic. And I suppose you've also gone at a relatively good time of year, haven't you? So you've not really hit the cold weather or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't. It's currently summer here at the moment. So we haven't had any sort of weather that's been unbearable, but it's funny, it does get quite really hot, and then the next day it'll be just freezing cold and raining. But yeah, we have come at a good time.
Did the horses travel okay? How did you find that process traveling with them? Because this is the first time, am I right that this is the first time you've taken horses overseas?
Yeah, it's the first time we've taken horses overseas. I've been over here the last 2 years, actually. The first time I came over 2 years ago, I did 5 weeks. I worked for Yandu just for 5 weeks when they were based at Stalltops. And then last year I came over and we tried some horses in the area. So I know the area quite well. But yeah, it's our first time actually bringing horses over on our own. It was a good experience for the horses, though. They dealt with it okay. I didn't personally travel with the horses. Me and Mum travelled just on a flight, but travelling with the horses would definitely be something I'd like to do on the next trip. If they come home or if they go somewhere else, I'd definitely like to actually be with them
Yeah,
for sure. But
absolutely.
they dealt with it quite well, so it's good.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Are mum and dad with you over there?
Yeah, so Mum, she came over with me and she'd been here. We came over about 5 weeks ago, and Mum's been with me since that. And then my dad and sister actually flew over about a week ago, and they came and helped at the last show in Deauville in France. Dad really wanted to come over for that. There was also a Zach Bryan concert in Eindhoven. Yes, was it last weekend? He's my dad's sort of favourite singer. And obviously he couldn't get tickets in Melbourne. So when he saw that he was playing in Eindhoven, which is like 25 minutes away from here, he wanted to be here for that. Yeah, he's been over here for about a week with my sister, and they'll fly back home after Rotterdam, which is the next show this coming weekend. And then he'll be a bit later in the year.
Which shows did you start off with? Were there some shows for you in that local area? Because I mean, it's a great area for shows there around Valkenswaard there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. We took our horses about a week after they got here. We just took them to like a training show at Centaur Park, it's awesome over here. They have training shows every day of the week, which is really helpful. And then we took them the weekend after to Centaur, like the same place, but they had an international show there. I jumped both of my horses into 2-star. They were both very good. That was our first show. And then 2 weeks later, we had Deauville in France, which was a 3-star show. And they've both been awesome. Deauville is probably one of my favorite shows I've ever been to, I'd say. And then next weekend we head to Rotterdam, and we've got a few more shows planned over the next couple of months. But at this stage, we've been trying to do a show every second weekend. So we'll do a show and then give them a weekend off and then go again the next weekend. And I think that works quite well with both of my horses. So
Yeah, that sounds great. And I do want to talk in a bit of detail about Deauville as well. But what did you notice just with those local shows that you were going to Centaur? How did they feel compared to what you're used to back home here in Australia?
it was a 2-star show at Centaur Park. So it wasn't the highest level. So to me, it actually felt like quite a casual sort of show. It wasn't there wasn't too much sort of atmosphere or anything like that, because they pretty much have those 2-star shows there every second weekend. There's a lot of shows there. So it was pretty normal. It almost just felt like being back at Bonia, to be honest. Somewhere like that. But even Sophie Scott, the New Zealand rider, she did the 4-star at Centaur on the weekend, and that was a huge atmosphere there. So I think it changes with the level of competition. There was lots of people there on the weekend watching the 4-star Grand Prix. So that's interesting. But the 2-star at Centaur, that felt quite relaxed. But then Deauville was a different story. That was a big atmosphere for sure.
And how are you getting around? You're just traveling with Hillary to these shows?
So we're quite lucky with Hillary. She's got a big truck herself, and then she's also got a horse box and a float. So how it works is if we need the horse box to take horses to a show or the truck, we just organise that with them. And if they're not using it, that's all good. We just take the horse box to the show, and then we'll actually drive the horse box back to the stable, back here to Oak Sport Horses after we've dropped the horses off at the show, so then they can use it for the rest of the week. and it pretty much just works like that. If we need something, we just organize it. And if we can't use the horse box for whatever reason or the truck, then we just have to hire a horse box. And that's quite easy over here to just hire one for a day. Use it. So that's what we would do. We haven't had to do that yet, but I'm sure we might have to in the future. But yeah, it's not too bad. We're very lucky here at Hillary's place. That been awesome.
Yeah, as I said, it is in a brilliant location. It's centre of the horse world there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
just when you're at these shows and you're seeing the other riders, do you notice much of a difference? I guess the classes are a lot bigger to start with, aren't they, than what we're used to over here? Or I don't know
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
that's the case, but
I think I listened to Billy's podcast actually the other day, and it's pretty much just what he said. There's just so many people in all of the classes here or at home. You do a World Cup and there's maybe, you're lucky if there's 30 people in it. But here you've got like people lining up to get into those sort of shows. So there's hundreds of people in the classes. It's just so different. Yeah. Matthew.
what about the standard of the riding and the horses? Are you noticing much of a difference there as well?
I think the standard of riding is for sure better, but they've also got much more people. We might have 10 to 15, I'd say, almost world-class riders. But then you go to Europe and you've got 100 at every show. So if that makes sense. So the standard of riding is there in Australia for sure, but in Europe, there's just so many more of them and there's so many more people to compete against. You've also got amateurs jumping big classes like in Australia. So not everyone is world class. You've got also amateurs. You've got people stepping up and green riders almost like myself. So it's similar in a way. There's just more people at all the levels.
Before we continue with this chat, I would like to thank Divas Beverages for sponsoring this podcast and for all they do for our jumping community. Divas Beverages is a business that truly gives back to the sport we love. Visit divasbeverages.com.au to explore their full range of carefully crafted premium beverages. Now back to our guest. Yeah. Did you feel any sort of extra stress or nerves going to those shows, or was it just business as usual in a way, but just in a different location?
Yeah, I felt it is a bit stressful going, even just driving to the show, and you don't know any of the locations. Like we went to Centaur and we had no idea to unload the horses and stuff like that. And then you've got to try and figure it out with people that some people don't speak English, which is hard. It's different. And the warm up I find is definitely can be quite stressful. I'll compare it to like Borneo. For instance, you're only allowed 7 horses in that size warm up. Over here, there is no limit. So there would be like, I'd say 20 to 25 horses in that warm up ring. And literally at Centaur, the warm up would be smaller than that at Borneo. And you've just got horses everywhere, it makes it hard to just even get to a fence without cutting someone off. So I find I'm probably not riding the warm up as good as I would at home because I'm actually focused on getting to a fence without cutting someone off instead of preparing my horse to jump a good fence in the warm up. That's something I think I've just got to work on. I've got to be a bit better at not worrying about so much about what everyone else is doing and focus on my horse and getting them ready, I think. And I think that'll just come with experience as well. So
yeah, and I guess if they're calling out that they're going to jump the vertical or the oxa or whatever, are they calling out those things in English, or are you understanding what they're saying?
Yeah, it's mostly in English. But even I found, we're pretty lucky in Australia. We've got really good people calling at the gate and it's very clear. You've got, you get your name called out. You've got 5. It's very clear. But over here, they'd be speaking in like Dutch or something. So you don't actually know. I didn't know at my first show how many I had till I was in the ring. So I just had to know who I was after. And it was the same thing in France. They'd call out in French But yeah, at Centaur they did the same, and it was a bit unclear. But most of the shows have a sort of a screen that has the draw on it, so you can see. But you've just got to be very organized before. You've got to get to the warm up very early. I haven't had an issue where I've been actually at my first show. I had my mare in the second ring, and I was riding at the exact same time as the course walk in ring one. I think it was a meter 45 class with Kalishko, and I completely missed the whole course walk. So I just had to ride the course without walking it, which was fine. It was only the first day. It wasn't like the main class or anything, but that was a bit stressful. But yeah, you just got to be very organized with what you're doing, and I think you won't run into any issues. But yeah.
What about getting into the shows? I mean, people have mentioned how hard it is to get into the shows, and I believe, like from Billy and everything, that it's more the higher level shows that are really hard to get into. Is it still tricky
Yep.
to get into those other shows?
Yeah, I suppose for me it's a bit easier because I only need to be jumping meter 45, meter 50 maximum for my goal, which is the under 21s. So I don't need to be going to 4 or 5-star shows. And really the 2 and 3-star, like the 2-star shows pretty much anyone could get into, and the 2-star Grand Prix are meter 45. That's not too bad for me. And I'm trying to do a few 3-stars here and there as well, which we jump a meter 50 to a meter 55 Grand Prix, and they're a little bit harder to get into, but I've just been accepted into the 3-star at Riesenbeck, which is actually a global show through a wild card. I applied for a wild card and I got it just for the 3-star, because that's all I need to be really doing. But that'd be I probably wouldn't have been able to just get into that by entering. So I suppose the wild cards give us an opportunity to do those bigger shows, and it gives the senior riders an opportunity to jump the 5-stars, which they need to be jumping, obviously, before WEG, because WEG is a 5-star event. So it's much easier for me because I don't have to be jumping 5-star and 4-star classes, but for the senior riders, it's definitely much harder for them.
Do we get 2 people for the youth championships at Aachen? What was that called?
Yeah, the youth champion, the young rider championship. Yeah, it's Australia can send two people. Yeah.
So that is something really worth working towards, isn't it? To see if you can get on that.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
squad.
it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, I've been told, because even ARC, you can't, not anyone can just go to ARC. I probably won't ever get the opportunity to ride there ever again. Obviously, I'd hope to, but you never know with that sort of thing. So this is a once in a lifetime thing, and I think I've got a really good horse for the competition that I can be competitive on. I'm just going to give it a crack and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, let's talk about the teams, an Australian team. And when you found out that you'd been selected for the Australian team for Deauville, how did that feel?
That was very special. It was very special to go with the team to a big show like that in France, especially on a horse that I've produced since he was a 4-year-old. That's quite special. He's still only green. He was green for that level, and he's green for the competition here, but it was an eye-opener, definitely, into how good you have to be to even be competitive at that level. But it was just great to be with the team and Gavin in that sort of team environment, because we don't get that a lot in Australia. We're getting it a lot more with the teams events where they're running, but we don't get the sort of Nations Cup experiences a lot, even over here, maybe twice a year. So it was awesome to be on the team, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
Any Nations Cup is huge, and certainly people over here are saying how well you did and how well you rode. So can you talk us through the experience just in terms of, what you thought about the course and how it played out for you?
Yeah, I suppose on the first day of the show, I rode Kalishko in the Nations Cup, but the first day of the show, he jumped very well. I think I had a time fault in the meter 45 class. So then I got picked for the team after that. Obviously, I was in the squad of 5, but they hadn't picked the team yet. So I was in the team after that, and it was probably a solid meter 50, meter 55 track. It was 13 fences, so it was quite long. And in the first round, They had a big water tray, like an open water, 7 strides to a vertical, and I was just too unbalanced coming down to the vertical after the water. So he had that down, but he was clear the rest. We had 1 down in the first round, but I actually had 4 time penalties. And there was just a few places where I probably just pulled on the reins and added a stride, which sort of, whenever you do that, especially over here, it's just screaming time penalties. So he jumped very well in the first round. I had 1 down and 4 time faults. So in the second round, I said to myself, I don't want to get a time fault. So I spoke with Gavin and Jim, because a few of those other riders, they also had time faults. Tom jumped a clear round in the first round with 1 time fault, I think. So I spoke to them and I watched my video, and there was 3 places on the course where I just had to just come around the corner and do 1 stride less. It was from like 2 to 3 and to the water, open water. I had to do 1 less. So I did that in the second round, and my horse, he had 3 down, I think, but I didn't get a time fault. And that was what I needed to do, I think, though. And I spoke to Gavin, and he said that was the right thing to do, because it's all well and good that you can jump around a big track and have 1 down and have 4 time faults, but that's not going to get you anywhere, because if you jump a clear round, you're still going to have 4 time faults. So I need to train at a faster pace, getting under time, and I've also got to be able to keep the jumps up. So it's just a whole another thing you've got to think about. In Australia, I'll jump at a Grand Prix and I'll be solely focused on just keeping the fences up. I don't even have to really think about time allowed. And 9 times out of 10, I'll go under time. So there was 3 spots. It was after the second fence. It was after the first double to the plank, and it was after the treble to the open water. And I did all 3 of those things, and I got under time. But because of that, because my horse, he's bigger, he's got a big stride, I was going a little faster. He just found it then a bit hard to come off the verticals, especially. So he had 3 down because of it. And he was probably a little bit tired as well. He just jumped 2 big rounds, but I was pretty happy with him. He felt good. I was under time in the second round, which was an achievement, because a lot of people were getting time faults. I rode to my plan, which I was happy with, and it was better. And I think me and the horses have just got to improve. We've got to train a little bit differently at home, and we've got to keep thinking about how we can get under time whilst keeping jumps up. It's a different sort of mindset, I think.
Yeah. Billy was saying in his podcast about the size of the arenas there. Has that been something that you've noticed?
Centaur was quite big. Deauville wasn't massive or anything. It wasn't too big, so there wasn't really anywhere that we'd get caught going too wide. It was more if there's an inside turn, you've just got to be able to take it instead of going around. There was definitely still places where you have to be economical with where you go. You got to have a good plan.
And Billy was saying it as well. It's just getting used to riding that way, which is slightly different than what you need to ride in Australia.
Absolutely. Especially it's quite hard with Callisto. He's a big, slow-moving horse that got a lot of scope, and he's very careful. But it's hard with him. He's very slow in the air, and he's very slow traveling around. So I've got to work on actually just being able to turn up really tight to a fence and still being able to jump it normally. That's just what he's got to get better at. So that's what I've been working on in training, is just being able to turn up tight to a big fence and be comfortable with it instead of stressing about it a bit in a way. And I think once I can do that, then I think he'll be fine. There won't be too many issues with it. But we've just got to adjust the training a little bit.
Horizon Show Jumps was founded by people who genuinely love the sport, and that shows in everything they do. What started back in 2013 as a search for better quality jumps has grown into one of Australia's leading suppliers, with their fences now seen at major events like Melbourne Royal, Equitana and Auschamps. Horizon specialise in custom-made jumps for private arenas, eye-catching sponsor fences that really make brands pop, and a full range of hire equipment with designs that are regularly refreshed so courses always feel professional and current. And now Horizon are also building high-quality stables. carrying that same attention to detail and understanding of horses across your whole setup. So if you're looking to lift your arena, your barn, or your next event, head to horizonshowjumps.com.au. And now back to our guest. How did that feel being part of a Nations Cup team and having those guys as your teammates? That must have been pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my first time on a senior team. So I've done a few young rider teams and stuff like that against New Zealand. But this was my first time with the seniors, and it was a really good experience. I went through the course, I walked the course, I went through it with Gav and I went through it with Tom a little bit, and it was just good insight.
And sort of nice to be on with the guys basically from back home, isn't it, Billy and Tom? And
it was a full Australian riders team, if that makes sense. So it felt actually quite normal. Everyone on the team I knew, I've been sort of friends with, so it didn't feel like anything too different. And it was good that I had a good relationship with everyone on the team. I could go through the course with everyone, and yeah, it was a really good team atmosphere. I think at the show, Jamie winning, she organised a big dinner, I think the night before, with everyone. We had a big group of all of us, all the grooms and all the family of all the riders together. So it was just good to be in a team environment with everyone. But yeah, no, it was good.
yeah, and it must have been pretty cool too, standing watching them as they did their rounds as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good. Billy was first out. He had one down really late in the course. He did a really good round in the first round, and then I remember watching Tom. He just had one time fault. His horse jumped really well, and then I had to go back and get on my horse, so I didn't actually see Jim go, but I think she jumped quite well. Actually, no, that's wrong. Tom was last out. It was actually Billy first, then Jamie, then me, then Tom. I got to watch Tom.
Yeah, and for Tom to have a time fault, things are a little bit different, don't you, when Tom's having a
definitely.
time fault?
Things, very different. You wouldn't normally see Tom or even Jamie have a time fault at home. Billy was our only rider that I don't think got a time fault over both rounds. It was pretty solid, but it's just different. You got more pressure to get under the time, which obviously then forces you to make mistakes, forces you to get a bit flat in some areas. It's something you've just got to, I've got to take back home with me, and I've got to keep thinking about the bigger picture, that there's almost no point. If you think you've got a horse that you're going to take overseas, there's no point just cantering around and just getting under time. You've got to be always thinking about training the horses to be a bit sharper, and always thinking about landing and then turning. But that's, experience.
Yeah, which, mirrors as well what Billy was saying, that, you come over there and obviously the goal is to qualify for that team for Aachen, but what you can take away from this experience regardless is just invaluable, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. A lot of things to learn. And honestly, I just think if you really want to be the best, then you've got to be over here doing it, because that's where the best riders are. So there's a lot to take back home and learn, but I think I'd definitely love to actually stay here and give it a good crack and see what happens.
Yeah. So your mum might not be overly happily with that, but
no, she really likes it over here. She doesn't want to go home.
Because it's not just your journey, it is a family effort, isn't it? And what was
Absolutely,
that experience for your family as well, to see you compete on a Nations Cup team? That just must have, I can't even imagine how incredible that must have been for them.
Oh, I think, it was awesome. They definitely enjoyed it. The whole show was amazing. Even after the Nations Cup, I just qualified. They have the Grand Prix on the last day, the 3-star Grand Prix, and I just qualified for that, which I got to jump on Sunday, and that actually drew quite a big crowd, which was just awesome. I think, like, an Australian bred horse, obviously jumping a big class in front of a big crowd in Europe, it's quite special for them. A horse that they purchased from a young age for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're not competing or you're not working the horses, do you get to do a bit of the touristy stuff? I asked Billy that, and he said not much, but what about you guys?
similar to sort of what Billy was saying. I listened to his podcast, yeah, and it's a bit hard because we've got quite a good routine here at Hillary's place for the horses. Sort of, they get ridden in the morning and their boxes mucked out, then they go out for the day, and then they come in at about sort of 3:30 to 4. After we're finished riding, then some days we might go up to Eindhoven and do some shopping, or I don't know. We're always trying to do stuff, but to be honest, I haven't done as much touristing stuff as I'd like. And Dad and Charlotte, my sister, actually just left for Amsterdam this morning. They're going to pick up my grandma. My grandma's flying over from Melbourne, so they're going to go stay in Amsterdam for a night and pick her up. So I'm a bit jealous that I didn't get to go with them, but I've got a few lessons actually tomorrow morning with Hillary's coach, and he's very good. So I wanted to stay here for that. And then we leave for Rotterdam on Wednesday. So I've got to start getting organized for that. But I haven't done as much touristing stuff. The best thing I've done in the last few days is go to the Zach Bryan concert. We had a good group of the Australians, Kerm, Jim, their groom Steffi, and Billy's groom as well, Jamie, and a few others. We all went to Zach Bryan together in Eindhoven, that was an amazing night. That was pretty cool.
Jack, I've got no idea who that is, Zach Ryan.
Oh, Zach Bryan, he's a country singer.
Ah, okay.
He's a popular country singer. That was good. Yeah, enjoyed that.
All right, Jack, well, I'll let you go because I know you've got things to do, but I just want to say thanks very much. I do have a question actually for you because we have to keep this tradition going on the podcast, and I forgot to ask you for a question, but your question's actually from Berto. So from Chris Burton, and he just wanted to know, is there a horse, and it could be past or present, that you feel like you most identify with? I think he means like a horse that you see out there competing that you might be watching thinking, yeah, that's my kind of horse.
I really do. What's the horse I like? I can't quite remember what it's called, but it's Julian Epaillard's chestnut horse. He actually rode in Deauville on the weekend. I can't pronounce it, but yeah, the little small chestnut horse that Julian rode just looks like a real sort of gun. Small and fast and so much to go. Cool. Yeah.
Fantastic. Have you had a chance to think of a question for the next guest?
I actually did think of one. It might be a bit hard for someone to answer, but I was thinking like if you're living overseas for a long period of time, what would you do to make living over here a bit easier and make it feel a bit more like home?
I think it's a great question. That's an excellent question, Jack. Thanks heaps for spending the time with me to do this. I really do appreciate it, Jack. And I wish you all the best. I'm super excited. And I know you said that it might be your last opportunity to compete at Aachen, but I doubt that very much. I think you're going to have a lot. Yeah, we'll see. I think you'll have a lot of opportunities. But yeah, I wish you all the very best leading up to it. And I hope I see you there. And thanks again.
Thanks, Joan. Happy birthday.
Thanks, Jack. See you.
See you later. See ya. Bye.